Ethan Marlowe wiped the sweat from his brow as he worked in his small workshop on the edge of the settlement. The walls were cluttered with broken machines, tools, and strange alien gadgets scavenged from nearby ruins. He was a human mechanic, one of the few left who could repair almost anything, but he never expected his skills would bring him face to face with something extraordinary. That morning, while exploring the rocky cliffs outside the settlement, Ethan heard a faint, high-pitched whimper. He froze. It was soft, almost like the sound of metal scraping against metal, but tinged with a helpless tone that made his chest tighten. Following the sound, he climbed over jagged stones until he found the source, a tiny dragon hatchling, barely bigger than a loaf of bread, curled up next to a small broken toy. The hatchling's scales shimmered faintly under the sun, a mixture of deep green and gold, and its eyes were wide with fear. It trembled as it sniffed the air, glancing nervously at Ethan. Beside it lay a tiny mechanical toy, one that had clearly been loved but now was broken beyond recognition. Its limbs were bent, wires poking out, and its glowing core flickered weakly. Ethan crouched slowly, careful not to scare the creature. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, his voice gentle. "Don't worry. I think I can fix this." The hatchling blinked at him, tilting its head as if it could understand his words. Ethan reached out a hand, and the tiny dragon flinched, hissing softly. Its voice was more pitiful than threatening, almost a whisper. He smiled, staying calm. Slowly, he picked up the toy and examined it. It was a complicated piece of machinery for something so small. Strange symbols ran along its sides, glowing faintly with alien energy. Ethan's curiosity sparked. "This isn't just a toy," he murmured. "Someone put a lot of thought into this." He spent hours in the workshop, taking apart the toy piece by piece. The hatchling stayed nearby, watching, occasionally nudging Ethan with its tiny snout. Every time it moved, it left small scorch marks on the floor, tiny signs of nervous energy. Ethan realized the toy was more than play, it was a companion, a friend for the dragon in a world that could be cruel. As he worked, Ethan thought about the settlement. Humans and dragons rarely interacted, and most humans avoided dragon territory. Dragons were powerful, unpredictable, and feared. But the tiny hatchling was different. It showed trust, even if hesitantly, and Ethan felt a strange connection to it. He had spent his life fixing machines and gadgets, not creatures, but something about this small, scared dragon made him want to help. Hours passed, and the sun dipped lower in the sky. The hatchling had grown braver, inching closer each time Ethan adjusted a tiny gear or replaced a glowing wire. The toy began to hum softly as he repaired it, tiny lights flickering in rhythm. The dragon's eyes widened, and a soft chirp of excitement escaped its mouth. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He had done something good today, something meaningful. He didn't notice the shimmer in the sky above the cliffs, a faint shadow gliding silently, observing every move. High above, hidden in clouds and distance, the Dragon Emperor watched. Zorinth, ruler of a great dragon civilization, rarely concerned himself with the actions of humans, but something about this small human's courage and care intrigued him. He had seen many creatures, many worlds, but the focus and bravery of this one human, even when faced with danger, caught his attention. Ethan finally held the toy in his hands, its core glowing steadily, casting soft light across his face. The hatchling hopped forward, careful but curious, sniffing the toy. Its tail flicked nervously, then slowly, it touched the toy with one claw, pressing it gently against its chest. The tiny dragon let out a small, happy chirp. Ethan laughed softly. "You like it, huh?" he said. "It's yours again." The hatchling chirped louder this time, eyes sparkling, and nudged Ethan's hand in thanks. For a moment, the two of them simply looked at each other, the human and the dragon, connected by trust and something deeper that neither fully understood. Ethan knew helping the hatchling was risky. If other dragons or humans discovered his actions, it could cause trouble. But in that moment, he didn't care. He had fixed more than a toy, he had given hope, companionship, and comfort to a scared little life. As night fell, the hatchling curled up beside the toy, finally at ease. Ethan watched it sleep, feeling a strange sense of pride. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown, and he had chosen courage. What he didn't know was that every moment of this simple act had been observed, every move noted by a power far beyond his understanding. In the darkness above, Zorantha's eyes gleamed with curiosity. The Emperor wondered what other surprises this tiny human might have in store. And in that quiet, rocky corner of the universe, a bond was formed that would soon change everything. Ethan woke early the next morning, the little dragon already waiting outside his workshop. Its tiny eyes sparkled in the sunlight, full of curiosity and cautious hope. It chirped softly as he opened the door, nuzzling his hand for attention. The bond between them had grown overnight, silent but strong. He picked up the broken toy again, turning it over in his hands. The wires were delicate, some nearly snapped. The glowing core flickered, barely alive, and strange symbols along the sides pulsed faintly. Ethan could feel a strange energy coming from it, something alien yet familiar. This wasn't just a toy, it was part of something greater, and repairing it required more than simple tools. Ethan spread the pieces across his workbench, laying them out carefully. The tiny dragon watched every move, tilting its head, sometimes tapping a claw against the table as if it wanted to help. Ethan chuckled. "I don't think this is your skill, little buddy," he said. "But your encouragement helps." He started with the toy's limbs, straightening bent metal and reconnecting tiny wires. Some of the pieces were from advanced alien tech, scavenged long ago from ruins near the settlement. Ethan had studied their designs, but repairing them was always a challenge. He had never faced anything this delicate, this important. Every mistake could destroy the toy completely. Hours passed. Sweat dripped from Ethan's forehead, his hands shaky but precise. The hatchling stayed close, sometimes curling around his legs, watching his every motion. Its soft chirps and gentle touches gave him strength. He realized that this wasn't just about fixing a toy, it was about trust, responsibility, and courage. Helping a creature so small and vulnerable in a dangerous world was frightening, yet he felt a sense of purpose he had never known. Outside, the wind whistled through the cliffs, carrying the faint cries of distant dragons. The settlement was quiet, but Ethan knew danger could be close. Humans rarely ventured this far, and dragons even less. But the tiny hatchling showed no fear around him now, and that gave Ethan hope. Humans had learned to survive in harsh worlds through courage and intelligence, and this small creature reminded him of why bravery mattered. As he worked on the toy's glowing core, it sparked violently once, almost burning his fingers. Ethan yanked it back, heart pounding. "Easy there," he muttered. The hatchling whimpered, clearly worried, and nudged his hand gently. Ethan laughed nervously. "Don't worry, little one. We'll get there." Time slipped by. Pieces clicked together, wires fused, and lights began to glow steadily. The toy's symbols pulsed with rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. The hatchling chirped louder, hopping from one foot to the other, tail flicking with excitement. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He was seeing something extraordinary, a connection between life, technology, and courage. He didn't notice the shadow above the cliffs, gliding silently in the clouds. The Dragon Emperor, Zoranth, continued to watch. His massive wings cast a dark shadow over the settlement, and his eyes, sharp as polished gems, never left the tiny human and the hatchling. He observed how Ethan handled the toy with care, how he treated the hatchling gently, and how he risked everything for a creature so small. Zorantha's mind, ancient and powerful, had never encountered this before. Humans were clever, yes, but most acted out of fear or greed. This one acted out of empathy, bravery, and determination. Something about that combination was unusual, almost dangerous. The Emperor's curiosity deepened. Back in the workshop, Ethan finally reached the last piece. He carefully inserted it into the toy, holding his breath. Sparks flew briefly, and then the toy's core glowed brightly, steady and warm. Lights danced across its body, and soft music-like tones filled the air. The hatchling jumped back, chirping with joy, tail curling happily. Ethan laughed, exhaustion melting into relief. "You did it," he said softly, looking at the tiny dragon. "We did it together." The hatchling chirped again, nuzzling the toy, then nudged Ethan's hand in a gesture that felt like thanks. It was simple, yet powerful. For the first time, Ethan realized the full weight of what he had done. Humans often faced worlds much larger than themselves. They survived through ingenuity, courage, and compassion. This small act, repairing a tiny toy, was more than it seemed. It was a testament to human bravery, the ability to act when no one else would, and to protect the weak even when the cost was unknown. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the workshop. Ethan sat back, letting the hatchling curl up beside the toy. He thought of the dangers ahead. Dragons could appear at any moment. The settlement was unprepared for attention from the dragonkind. And yet, for now, there was peace. High above, Zorantha's eyes gleamed in the fading light. He had seen the courage, intelligence, and empathy of one human, and it intrigued him deeply. For a creature who ruled an empire of dragons, rarely moved by anything, this human had done the unexpected. The Emperor did not yet know what consequences would follow, but he could feel change in the air. Ethan glanced at the hatchling, smiling tiredly. "Sleep well tonight, little friend," he said. "Tomorrow, we face whatever comes, together." The hatchling chirped softly, curling closer to the toy, finally at ease. And somewhere above, the Dragon Emperor watched, silent and calculating, as one tiny act of human courage began to ripple across the skies. The morning sun broke over the cliffs, spilling golden light across the settlement. Ethan was already awake, the little dragon perched on a rock nearby, tail twitching nervously. It chirped softly, watching him as he packed tools and spare parts for the day. The toy, now fully repaired, sat beside it, glowing faintly with that steady, warm light. Ethan didn't notice the sky above. High in the clouds, moving silently with wings stretched wide, the Dragon Emperor, Zoranth, observed. The Emperor's massive form cast a shadow that could darken valleys, yet he remained hidden, unseen by human eyes. For the first time in centuries, something small, a human, a fragile hatchling, and a simple toy, had captured his attention. Zorantha's mind was ancient and sharp. He had seen countless creatures, planets, and battles, yet he found himself intrigued by Ethan's actions. This human had chosen to risk his life for a tiny dragon, a creature considered weak and unimportant by dragon standards. Most humans would have fled, hidden, or even tried to steal the toy for their own gain. But this one? He had acted with courage, intelligence, and care. Curiosity grew in Zorantha's mind. He wondered why humans behaved so differently than dragons. Strength alone ruled his empire, fear kept subjects obedient. Compassion was a weakness. Yet here was a human who showed empathy even when it could bring danger. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Perhaps humans were not as simple as he had assumed. Meanwhile, Ethan prepared for another day of work. He carefully examined the toy, making small adjustments and ensuring all connections were secure. The hatchling chirped happily, nudging the toy and then glancing at Ethan as if sharing its joy. For Ethan, the bond between himself and the dragon was growing stronger. He began to see the tiny creature not just as a responsibility, but as a friend. Zoranth moved closer, circling high above, observing without being seen. He noticed how Ethan's hands shook slightly as he worked, the careful precision in every motion. He watched the way Ethan responded to the hatchling's chirps and gestures. Humans were fragile, yes, but their minds were sharp, and their courage unexpected. This one had acted without orders, without fear of dragon's wrath. The Emperor felt a spark of interest he could not ignore. At the settlement, some humans stirred, unaware of the enormous shadow above. They had heard stories of dragons patrolling the skies but had never seen one up close. Ethan kept the hatchling close, careful not to draw attention. He knew the world was dangerous. Dragons ruled much of the territory, and humans survived by avoiding conflicts. Yet, today, the little dragon's trust gave him strength. He felt braver than he had in years. Back in the clouds, Zorinth considered his next move. Most dragons would see the humans' actions as a threat or disrespect. They might strike without thought. But the Emperor sensed something different. This human's courage was not reckless, it was thoughtful, deliberate, and compassionate. It challenged everything he had believed about humans. Could it be that they were more than prey? Could they, in some small way, teach dragons something new? As the day wore on, Ethan took the hatchling for a short flight near the cliffs. The little dragon struggled at first, its wings too weak to lift properly. Ethan guided it gently, using small gestures and soft encouragement. The toy glowed with each attempt, as if powering the hatchling's efforts. Ethan's heart swelled with pride. Human ingenuity had restored not only a machine but also hope. Zorinth observed silently, noting every movement. The Emperor had seen battles, power struggles, and cunning strategies across countless worlds. Yet, the combination of intelligence, empathy, and courage displayed by this small human fascinated him. Zorinth realized that a creature so seemingly insignificant could influence events far beyond its size. Later, as Ethan rested near the workshop, the hatchling curled around the toy, exhausted but content. Ethan watched it sleep, feeling a mixture of relief and anticipation. He knew dragons could appear at any moment, yet he did not regret his choice. Courage, he believed, was not just about fighting, it was about doing what was right, even when the outcome was uncertain. High above, Zorinth's eyes glimmered. He wondered what the human would do next, how he would act if faced with real danger. The Emperor had seen strength in many forms, but this was different. This was subtle, quiet, yet impossible to ignore. One small act had revealed qualities dragons rarely valued: empathy, patience, and bravery. The tiny hatchling stirred in its sleep, nuzzling the glowing toy. Ethan smiled, brushing a gentle hand across its head. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. "We just need to keep going, little one. Together." The hatchling chirped softly, and Ethan felt the weight of responsibility and pride. Zorinth lingered longer than usual, pondering the significance of what he had witnessed. He had expected humans to act in predictable ways, but Ethan had defied expectation. Perhaps this small, simple world contained more surprises than he had imagined. Perhaps the courage of one human could spark change in ways dragons could not foresee. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the cliffs, Ethan packed up tools, the toy glowing steadily beside the hatchling. He did not know he had already captured the attention of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And somewhere high above, the Dragon Emperor's curiosity burned like a quiet fire, waiting to see what this small human would do next. For now, the world was calm, but the balance was shifting. One tiny act of courage, one repaired toy, and one trusting dragon had already begun to change everything. The next morning, Ethan awoke to the sound of soft chirps outside his workshop. The hatchling was already awake, restless, and bouncing with energy. Its tiny wings fluttered in the sunlight as it nudged the glowing toy, which had begun pulsing with a rhythm Ethan hadn't noticed before. He frowned, curious. The toy's lights flickered in patterns that almost looked like signals. Ethan picked it up carefully, examining the glowing core. "What are you trying to tell me?" he muttered. The hatchling chirped again, and pressed its claw against the toy. Ethan realized the signals were not random, they were sending something, though he didn't yet understand what. He frowned, feeling a small knot of unease. Unbeknownst to him, high above in the clouds, Zorinth, the Dragon Emperor, was observing with sharp interest. The signals were not invisible to him. His ancient mind analyzed the patterns, detecting energy signatures far beyond what he had seen in most dragons. The toy was more than a simple machine, it was a tool, a key, a signal. And it had been activated by a human. Ethan didn't know the danger that hovered above. He had spent the last day thinking of ways to improve the toy's durability and make it more fun for the hatchling, but he had unknowingly drawn attention from the dragon patrols. Distant roars echoed faintly through the cliffs. Dragon scouts were approaching, drawn by the toy's energy. Panic rose in Ethan's chest, but he didn't let it show. He had faced fear before, and he knew running wouldn't protect the hatchling. He gathered the toy and moved the hatchling closer to the workshop, creating a small hidden space under the rocks. "Stay close," he whispered. The hatchling chirped softly, nuzzling him, trusting him completely. Ethan felt a surge of courage. Humans survived not just with strength, but with clever thinking, bravery, and heart. He would protect this small life, no matter the risk. From above, Zorinth narrowed his eyes. He could have easily sent a patrol to destroy the human and the hatchling, but he did not. He wanted to see what this human would do next. Most humans would flee, beg, or surrender. Ethan, however, had shown a rare combination of courage and intelligence. The Emperor's curiosity was now a burning flame. Ethan set to work, trying to shield the toy from detection. He used scraps of metal and old tech to create a small, camouflaged enclosure. He connected wires from nearby energy sources to stabilize the toy's glow and mask its signal. Each adjustment required precision and courage, for one wrong move could attract the patrols sooner. The hatchling chirped encouragement with every click and spark. Ethan smiled briefly, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the thrill of ingenuity. Hours passed, and the first patrol approached. Ethan froze, watching their shadows glide over the cliffs. He held the hatchling close, hiding in the rocks. His heart pounded, but he did not panic. Humans were known for thinking on their feet, and he would need every ounce of cleverness to survive this encounter. The patrol scanned the area, their eyes catching the faint glow of the toy. Ethan held his breath. He carefully redirected the light through small mirrors, bending the signal away from them. The patrols hesitated, confused by the shifting glimmers. Ethan felt a thrill of success. His knowledge, courage, and quick thinking had kept them at bay, for now. Meanwhile, the hatchling's wings twitched with nervous excitement. It seemed to sense the danger as well, but it did not panic. Its trust in Ethan was complete. For the first time, Ethan realized the power of courage combined with compassion. He had saved more than a machine, he had saved a life, and in doing so, he had proven that humans could face overwhelming odds with intelligence and heart. High above, Zorinth observed every move. He noticed the careful adjustments, the human's calm under pressure, and the growing connection between human and hatchling. The Emperor's mind raced. This small human, fragile and mortal, had evaded dragon patrols, protected an important creature, and displayed a courage most dragons would never understand. The Emperor felt something unfamiliar, admiration mixed with curiosity. Ethan did not notice the Emperor's attention. He only saw the immediate threat, the patrols, and the hatchling relying on him. He whispered softly to the creature, "We'll get through this. Trust me." The hatchling chirped, pressing its tiny head against Ethan's shoulder. In that moment, human courage and compassion shone brighter than any fear or danger. As the sun began to set, the patrols finally moved away, confused by the disappearing signals. Ethan exhaled deeply, relief flooding his chest. He looked down at the hatchling, who chirped happily and nuzzled the toy. He smiled. One small act of care, one repaired toy, had already changed the path of events far beyond his understanding. And somewhere above, hidden in the clouds, Zorinth continued to watch. One human, one hatchling, and one glowing toy had already begun to shift the balance of power. The Emperor's curiosity was no longer simple observation. He was planning, waiting to see what courage and ingenuity the human would show next. Ethan didn't know it yet, but every choice he made, every risk he took, had captured the attention of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And in the quiet of the cliffs, the human and the hatchling rested, unaware that the universe was watching them, and that their courage would soon echo far beyond the cliffs they called home. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft chirps of the hatchling and the steady glow of the repaired toy. The tiny dragon was restless, hopping from rock to rock, tail flicking with excitement. Ethan smiled, brushing sweat from his forehead. He knew today could bring danger. Dragon patrols had sensed the toy's energy yesterday, and now the Emperor himself was watching. Ethan packed his tools carefully, securing the toy. "We'll face whatever comes together," he whispered to the hatchling. It chirped, nuzzling the toy, as if agreeing. The bond between them was strong, built on trust, courage, and small acts of care. For Ethan, this was more than survival. It was a lesson in bravery and humanity, the way humans could face impossible odds with cleverness, compassion, and heart. Above, Zorinth, the Dragon Emperor, circled silently. His massive shadow stretched across the cliffs, yet Ethan did not notice. The Emperor's eyes were fixed on the human, analyzing every motion. He had seen countless humans, creatures of strength or cunning, but few with courage like Ethan's. This one human had acted without fear, without greed, and with empathy for a creature dragons considered weak. It intrigued Zorinth more than any battle or conquest ever had. As the human and hatchling moved near the cliff edge, a massive shadow swept over them. Zorinth descended, wings spread wide, landing with a ground-shaking thud. Dust and rocks scattered as the Emperor's gaze fixed on Ethan. The hatchling chirped nervously, huddling behind him. Humans nearby froze, unsure what to do. Most would have run, but Ethan stood his ground. The Emperor's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Human," he said, his tone both powerful and curious. "Why do you risk your life for this creature?" Ethan swallowed but did not step back. "Because it's alive. Because it trusts me. And because I can help," he said simply, his voice steady. "Courage isn't just fighting. It's doing what's right, even when the world is bigger than you." Zorinth studied him, tilting his massive head. Most humans would have cowered, begged, or fled. This one spoke with calm confidence, protecting a being far weaker than himself. The Emperor felt something he had not felt in centuries: respect. Perhaps humans were not as fragile or simple as dragons believed. Perhaps they held qualities dragons could never fully understand: empathy, ingenuity, and bravery. Ethan glanced at the hatchling, who chirped and nudged the toy. The AI inside the toy, fully restored, emitted a gentle glow, pulsing as if alive. The signals it sent were now faintly visible to Zorinth. The Emperor leaned closer, sensing the energy, and realized the toy was not only a companion for the hatchling but a small tool of intelligence, communication, and life energy. This fragile human had restored something far greater than expected. The Emperor extended a claw slowly, landing before Ethan. "I expected weakness," he said, his voice low and rumbling. "But you have courage." Ethan did not flinch. "Courage is for everyone," he said. "Even the smallest life deserves protection. Even when the outcome is unknown." For a long moment, silence hung between them. The hatchling chirped softly, stepping forward. Zorintha's eyes softened slightly. He realized the human had done something no dragon could force: he had earned trust and respect through kindness, intelligence, and bravery. Finally, the Emperor lowered his massive head. "You have surprised me, human," he said. "Most would flee, most would hide, most would fail. But you have shown something extraordinary." Ethan felt a surge of relief. He looked at the hatchling, now glowing slightly in excitement. "We just did what we had to," he said quietly. "That's all." Zorinth considered the small human for a moment longer, then spoke. "The galaxy watches actions, not intentions alone. Your courage has shifted what I believe possible. You and your companion are under my protection, for now." Ethan's eyes widened. The Emperor was granting safety, not because of fear, but because of respect. Humans had survived countless threats not through strength alone but through cleverness, morality, and courage. Today, those traits had changed the mind of a dragon emperor. The hatchling chirped happily, wings fluttering, as the toy pulsed in rhythm. Ethan laughed softly, exhaustion and relief washing over him. "We did it," he said, brushing dust from his clothes. "We survived, together." Zorinth spread his wings, rising above the cliffs. "One human's courage," he rumbled, "can alter what even the strongest believe." His gaze lingered on Ethan for a moment longer before he ascended into the sky, leaving a shadow that stretched far across the settlement. Ethan knelt beside the hatchling, smiling. "You're safe now," he whispered. "No one can take you away." The toy's glow reflected in the dragon's eyes, tiny sparks of life, trust, and hope. For the first time, Ethan realized the power of small actions. A single act of courage, repairing a tiny toy, had created a ripple across the galaxy. It had challenged assumptions, changed perceptions, and shown that humans, though small and fragile, could inspire awe, respect, and even fear in the mightiest beings. As the sun set, casting a golden light across the cliffs, Ethan looked at the horizon. He did not know what challenges would come next, but he understood one thing clearly: courage, intelligence, and heart could change worlds. He had faced danger, protected life, and proven that humans could rise above fear and expectation. The tiny hatchling chirped again, nudging Ethan's hand, and the toy glowed warmly between them. Together, they had survived, they had triumphed, and they had shown the Dragon Emperor, and perhaps the galaxy, that one small human could make a difference that echoed far beyond his size. And somewhere high above, Zorinth watched, silent and thoughtful, realizing that one tiny toy, one human, and one hatchling had already begun to reshape the future.